The wind howled through the narrow streets of the mountain town as Elara stepped out of her father's workshop, clutching the old brass key he had given her on his deathbed. The air carried the scent of pine and the faint metallic tang of the massive clock tower that loomed over the town square. Her father, Willem, had built it decades ago, a masterpiece of engineering and artistry. But as the tower's bell tolled midnight, its sound felt heavier tonight, almost alive. His final words rang in her ears. "The clock in the square! It hides more than time. Guard its secret well." For weeks after Willem's passing, Elara had fought the urge to investigate. Her father's work was a labyrinth of gears, runes, and mechanisms far beyond her understanding, and she feared what she might find. But curiosity had always been her compass, and tonight it led her up the spiraling staircase of the clock tower. At the top, she found the heart of the machine, a gleaming golden mechanism surrounded by strange ancient inscriptions. As she traced the symbols with her fingertips, her hand brushed a hidden lever. Her breath caught. "Should I pull it?" Her hesitation lasted only a moment. With a steadying breath, she yanked the lever. The world tilted. Time seemed to ripple like water, the gears of the clock spinning wildly. A dizzying rush of light and sound consumed her, and when it stilled, she found herself standing in the same clock tower, but everything outside the window had changed. The streets below were unrecognizable. Skyscrapers of glass and steel loomed where wooden homes had once stood. The air hummed with strange energy, and massive digital clocks adorned every building. As Elara stumbled into the street, people in sharp uniform clothing glanced at her, their faces etched with weariness. A towering hologram flickered to life above the square, showing a masked figure with cold mechanical eyes. The voice boomed. "Time is order. Obey, or be erased." Over the following days, Elara pieced together fragments of this dystopian world. Time itself had become a commodity, controlled by a figure known as the Chronarch. Those who obeyed were granted extra hours in their lives. Dissenters were punished some aged decades overnight, others trapped in endless loops of their worst memories. Elara soon found herself pulled into the orbit of a rebel faction fighting to overthrow the regime. Their leader, Cassian, was a charismatic, sharp-eyed man who felt oddly familiar. As they worked together to evade the regime's enforcers, she began to trust him until one night she noticed a scar above his eyebrow, just like her father's. "You look like him," she whispered. Cassian froze. "You knew Willem?" Elara's heart raced. "He was my father." Cassian's face darkened. "Then you and I have more in common than you think. Willem was my father too." The revelation struck her like a hammer. Cassian explained that Willem had travelled to the future to protect the secrets of the clock, abandoning his first family in the process. As the rebellion planned an assault on the central clock, tower now the source of the Chronarch's power, Elara made another discovery. Deep within the clock's schematics, hidden among the gears, was something Willem had never told anyone. The clock wasn't just a machine. Its core housed a sentient entity, Cronus, an ancient being bound by time itself. Cronus began whispering to Elara in her dreams. Its voice was soothing, yet terrible. "Free me," it urged. "Your father feared my power, but I could give you dominion over time. Together we could erase this tyranny." Elara woke in a cold sweat. Could she trust it? Her doubts only grew when she overheard Cassian speaking to someone over a hidden communicator. "If she resets the timeline, we might not exist," he said. Cassian wasn't fighting to fix the world. He wanted to preserve it flawed as it was, because it was the only future he had ever known. The rebels' assault on the clock tower was chaotic. Time Warden's elite soldiers with the ability to predict movements engaged them in brutal combat. Elara managed to reach the core of the clock, only to find herself captured by the Chronarch. When the masked ruler removed their mask, Elara gasped. The Chronarch was her. Older, colder, and filled with an unshakable resolve. This future Elara had tried to reset time once before, but Cronus had corrupted her, warping her intentions. "I did what I had to do to save humanity," the Chronarch said. "Order is the only way to prevent chaos." "You've enslaved them," Elara shot back. "And what will you do?" the Chronarch asked. "Destroy the clock. You'll tear the fabric of time apart. Millions could die worse, never exist." In the final moments, Elara made her choice. Ignoring both Cronus and her future self, she activated a hidden mechanism Willem had built a failsafe to destroy the clock entirely. And the world fractured. Through the chaos, she glimpsed her father, young and smiling, his hands stained with oil as he whispered, "You were always meant to be the one to set things right." When the world reformed, Elara found herself in a familiar yet different place. The town was peaceful, the clock tower replaced by a simple sundial in the square. There was no sign of the regime, no whispers of Cronus. She was alone, but for the first time, the weight of time felt light. The future was hers to create.